Welcome to today's webinar. Before we introduce the speaker, I want to make a few brief announcements. We know many of you are listening in from far away and can't attend local events or programs. That's why we provide this free webinar series. We host multiple webinars per month, so please visit our website to view the current schedule for 2017. Simply visit our website at www.johnson-center.org and click on the webinars link on the right-hand side. New webinars and events are often added, so if you are not on our email list, I encourage you to visit our website and click on the Join Our Email List link that appears on the homepage. We have many great summer events coming up, including free family fun, sibling summer camps, and social skill groups. To get instant news and events from the Johnson Center, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as we often announce grant and scholarship opportunities, research opportunities, and last-minute events and presentations there. Be sure to follow our colleagues at the Autism Research Institute as they host their own webinar initiative, and they share some great resources on their website and social media pages. Before we begin the presentation, please note that questions may be typed into your control panel throughout the presentation, and, time permitting, they will be addressed during the presentation. Also, for those who have requested copies of the presentation, we don't send out presentation slides. However, we do post recordings of all of our free webinars on the Johnson Center YouTube channel, found on YouTube/The Johnson Center, with no spaces, and subscribe to get full access of all of our recorded webinars. After today's webinar, look for a follow-up link in your mailbox 1 hour after the webinar concludes. It will contain instructions on how to download your certificate. Now, please welcome today's presenter, Amanda Tami. Amanda Tami holds a master's degree in counseling psychology and completed a recertification program in applied behavior analysis. In addition to being a board-certified behavior analyst, Amanda is a licensed professional counselor. She has experience working with both children and adults on the autism spectrum and other pervasive developmental disorders as both an ABA provider and a counselor. Since 2013, Amanda has shared her experience and knowledge within the Johnson Center's Behavioral Services Program, giving her the opportunity to pursue her passion of helping children and their families. She provides ABA supervision, school support, and counseling services to people with developmental issues and their family members, and she is a valued member of the Johnson Center family. Now, please welcome our presenter, Amanda Tami.
Thank you for being here today and joining me for this webinar on behavioral strategies to improve sleep in your household. Oops, let me get my slideshow working. Please also see our webinar about nutrition interventions to improve sleep, which also discusses other physiological and medical considerations for sleep. It's available on the Johnson Center's YouTube channel to view at your convenience. We all know how important it is to get enough sleep. If you think about a day right after a restless night or a night of not getting enough sleep, you'll surely remember feeling grumpy, responding slowly, having trouble recalling information, needing extra effort to pay attention. Of course, you're physically tired, and if you might even get sick if sleep deprivation has been long-term. It can affect the immune system. Sleep is critical for brain development and for learning and memory throughout our lives. Sleep affects nearly all of our body systems: the heart, musculoskeletal system, digestive system, and of course the brain and our cognitive abilities, including irritability or mood, impaired judgment. This graphic shows impaired moral judgment, but it's also judgment in other ways. For example, if you're trying to figure out if there's enough time to pull out of an intersection when you're driving, the ability to figure that out can be impaired if you're not getting enough sleep. And the graphic also says ADHD type symptoms, and of course This refers to attention, as it's difficult to pay attention if we're really tired. But this also refers to self-regulation. When we're grumpy, it's much easier to become angry and get to the point that we explode with anger if we're already starting out grumpy for the day. Since so much development and learning occurs during childhood, it's essential that we set our kids up to get the best possible night of sleep. A lot of children don't get enough sleep or enough high-quality sleep, and even more kids with autism fall into the poor sleep category. So in this webinar, we're going to talk about some tips to help your child and your whole household get better sleep. And while I'm talking a lot specifically and referring specifically to children, each of the strategies that I talk about applies to anyone across the lifespan. As much as we hate to follow good sleep hygiene habits or follow a consistent routine for our sleep, especially as adults, we get the best sleep if we do follow those sleep hygiene habits. So in this presentation, we're going to talk about some medical conditions briefly. We'll talk about anxiety and how that can be related to sleep and what you as parents can do about it. We'll talk about setting up an effective routine for sleep. And finally, I'll cover some sleep hygiene habits to help the sleep process, especially help falling asleep. So let's talk briefly about the medical considerations. Often you can improve a child's sleep by changing habits and using behavioral interventions. However, some medical conditions can negatively affect a child's sleep. These can include sleep apnea, narcolepsy, asthma, seizures, anxiety, just a few. And some medications can also affect sleep. Certain physiological or biologically based sleep disturbances are even more common among people with developmental disorders like autism or Down syndrome. And in a recent study by Souders and his colleagues, he reported that insomnia affects 60 to 80% of kids with autism spectrum disorders. 60 to 80%. Now, if you have any concerns about physiological causes for sleep disturbances, do talk to your doctor before trying other interventions. It can be really frustrating if you're trying all these interventions and not finding any success because there is a biological basis, and often behavioral interventions can't help if there is a physiological reason for the problem, and in some cases could make it worse. So do talk to your doctor if you suspect something, that there could be a medical condition affecting sleep. All right, so let's talk about anxiety and how that affects sleep, what you can do about it. For some kids, bedtime can be scary. They might be alone, the room is dark, they might be worried about imaginary figures or having scary dreams. But there are things that you can do to help them work through these fears. First, make transitional objects available at bedtime. Transitional objects are things that a child chooses and attaches to because they provide comfort in some way. For example, you probably heard of security blankets, maybe it's a favorite stuffed animal or a special shirt. And these things can help a child move from dependence on another person for comfort and security to independence and feeling secure by themselves and being able to comfort oneself. Now, having the transitional object at bedtime can help to reduce anxiety and increase self-soothing. For some kids with developmental delays, they may need a transitional object longer than would a neurotypical child, just because of their delays. They're less mature in their ability to self-soothe and their emotional regulation, and may just need more time with that transitional object before they're ready to be able to comfort themselves or feel secure without that. So, for example, if you have a 6-year-old who still carries around a blanket, a neurotypical child they might be getting to the point that they no longer need that blanket, but a child with autism may still need it. And there are a lot of things to consider as to whether or not to allow them to continue to have that, but especially social considerations. But at bedtime, when most social considerations are not, so it's not so important, or there aren't a lot of social opportunities at that time, that might be a time that you do allow them to continue having that transitional object. Next, it's really important that you validate your child's anxiety around going to bed. While it's true that your child might have a nightmare, it's true that he or she might miss you, and that it might be hard to fall asleep at first. It's true that they might be scared. Your child's worries are real, and acknowledging those fears and validating that they're natural and okay can be a relief to most children. It's often not helpful to try to dissuade them of that fear or disagree with him or her. If you say something like, "Oh, there's nothing to be scared of," or "If you don't worry about falling asleep, you won't have trouble falling asleep," responding in that way simply dismisses the child and tells them that their fear doesn't matter, but that doesn't make their fear any less. It's not really helpful to the child. So once you've validated those fears, provide some reassurance that if something bad does happen, you will be right next door and you will make sure that your child is safe. Your job is not to eliminate any possible problems, but rather to help the child feel empowered to deal with them, to know that they're safe, to know that they can handle it even if they feel scared right now. I'm going to be providing some strategies and information about teaching your child to fall asleep on his or her own out of your bed, out of the parent's bed, and with you out of their bed, so you're not laying in bed with them until they fall asleep. Research on sleep has shown that this provides the best night of sleep with the fewest disruptions. However, families have varying beliefs and philosophies and values, and I want to acknowledge that different sleeping arrangements work for different families. If teaching your child to sleep alone in their own bed isn't right for your family, that's okay. I'll be providing other strategies that might be helpful in your household. If you do want to teach your child to fall asleep alone, this thought might seem really scary and impossible to both you and your child right now, and it really might be difficult. And this is especially true if you are bed sharing in some way, and this is not the way that you want things to be in your household, but this is how things ended up so that you can all get the best night of sleep that you can. Excuse me. This can feel impossible. There is no way that I can get my kid out of my bed. But if you take some steps to establish that sleeping in their own bed by themselves is the expectation, the child will get used to it and will be capable of doing it. So I'm going to provide a couple of behavioral techniques to do this. The first is to gradually move the child or yourself farther away for sleeping. So if your child is sleeping in your bed every night and you want to help them get to their own bed, you might tonight have them sleep on the floor next to your bed instead of in your bed. following night, they would move a little bit farther away from the bed. Maybe they're in the doorway now, and the next night or after a few nights in the doorway, they move to the hallway, and gradually you move them just a little bit further until they're in their own bedroom and then in their own bed. It's a very gradual process and can be can feel like not a big deal to the child because it happens so gradually that they at each stage get a little bit of exposure to this different expectation, to this any fears that they might feel, but it's only a little bit at a time. Another option is to do what's called the 10 and 2 method. And in this method, at bedtime, you put the child in their own bed, tell them that you'll come back after 10 minutes to comfort him or her if needed. And after those 10 minutes, you come back into the room. If they're still asleep and need your help, you come back into the room and offer comfort for 2 minutes. After those 2 minutes, you again say, I'll come back in 10 minutes and help you again if you need it. You leave the room for 10 minutes, and if necessary, come back after those 10 minutes or offer 2 minutes of comfort. And you just continue this throughout the night until it's time to get up in the morning or until they fall asleep. Of course, this can lead to a few sleepless nights for you, but after just a couple of nights, it usually doesn't take long. The child is able to fall asleep without you needing to be coming in all night. Now, if the child, using this method, the recommendation is that if your child comes to you in the middle of the night, comes to your bed and wakes you up and says, I can't sleep, or tries to climb into your bed, you do the no talk walk back, in which you would hold the child's hand and walk them back to their own bed, put them into bed, all the while not speaking, not engaging, as little interaction as possible. Put them in bed, give them a kiss, and you go back to your bed. If they come back to your bed again and do the same thing, you do the same thing. You get out of bed, hold their hand, walk back with as little interaction as possible, put them back into bed, and you go back to your bed. And you continue this until they stay in their bed. If during the 10-minute intervals between the 2 minutes of comfort, your child is yelling or crying for you, asking you to come back, you don't go back. You wait until the end of those 10 minutes before you offer any comfort. Now, no matter how you choose to do this, no matter which of these methods or a completely separate method you choose to use to help your child sleep in their own bed by themselves, have a meeting or talk to them beforehand before starting these procedures so that they know this is coming. If they know that tonight we're going to try to sleep in our own bed, they can predict it. It's not such an abrupt change right at bedtime, and you're not all of a sudden have a child who didn't know this was coming, and now they're kind of freaking out because, what is this? I didn't know this was happening, and I'm really scared, or now I don't trust you. Talk about it beforehand and let them know that this is going to happen, and this is what you can expect. And again, offer lots and lots of validation and encouragement. Tell them, I know this can be scary. We want you to be able to feel safe in your own room without mom or dad in the room. I know it's new and it's scary, and it's okay to be scared. I know that you can do this, and I'll be here to help you, and it's going to feel so much better for you once you learn how to do this. If you need to, you can switch the topic to something to something good. Like, let's talk about the good things in your room. Point out the paint color or the toys or the soft bed. Anything that he or she likes in the room. You can change the subject when it's appropriate to something more positive. Things that make you feel good, make the child feel good. Funny distractions, stuff like that, so that the room doesn't have to be such a scary place. So let's talk a little bit about sleep cycles. A normal night of sleep is much more complicated than it might sound. We sleep in cycles of different stages of arousal. We're in light sleep in stages 1 and 2, and deep sleep in stages 3 and 4. And then there's REM sleep, which is when we dream. We actually also dream a little bit in deep sleep, but REM sleep is the main time for dreaming. And each stage of sleep comes with different physiological and neurological patterns. We cycle through each of these stages several times a night, and each time, as the body shifts between stage 2 and stage 3 of sleep, between the light sleep and the deep sleep, the body does what's called a microarousal. In microarousal, the body checks its internal environment, meaning everything happening inside the body, and the external environment, or what's happening outside of the body, to make sure that they haven't changed. Any changes to the environment are a signal of danger, and so if the body recognizes any changes, it signals the brain and the body to wake up. So if you wake up in the middle of the night and have to use the bathroom, you have a full bladder. You didn't have a full bladder when you came to bed, and now you do. This is an internal change, so the body wakes up. Or if you fell asleep with the television on and now it's off, or maybe someone has walked into your bedroom, this is an external change. So it signals the body to wake up. If the environment has stayed the same, the body continues to stage 3 of sleep. So those microarousals. If you're going to bed with your child and laying in the bed with them until they fall asleep, and then you later leave, that's a change in the environment. So training your child to fall asleep without you present in the room will create a more consistent sleep environment throughout the night and decrease the possibility of waking due to some external change. If your child does wake up during the night, what are the expectations in your house? Is he or she allowed to come and sleep in your bed? Can they wake you up, or can they get up and play? It can be helpful to teach your children that if they wake up during the night, they should stay in their own bedrooms and read or use relaxation techniques to try to fall back to sleep. If your children are able to tell time, it can be helpful to give them a time frame after which they can come and get you for help. So for example, if they don't fall back to sleep within about 45 minutes, they can come and wake you up for help. Giving them this reassurance that they can get help if they need it might be enough to lessen any sleep-related anxiety that's keeping them up. How many times have you woken up at 3 in the morning and thought, oh my God, I need to fall back to sleep. If I don't fall back to sleep, I'm going to be so tired tomorrow. God, what am I going to do? How am I going to fall back to sleep? Please fall back to sleep. And then your stress about not falling back to sleep keeps you up. So worrying about falling back to sleep makes it less likely that you can fall back to sleep. So for kids who can tell time, if you can give them a time frame and say, if you're not asleep after this long, you can come get me and I can help you. That can help to decrease that stress about them being able to fall back to sleep. If a child suffers from separation anxiety, transitioning out of your child's bedroom, for you to transition out of their bedroom or them to transition out of your bed at night can be especially emotional and difficult for both of you. Separation anxiety is often a result of relationships within the family system and not some disorder to your child. But if separation anxiety is really severe, or if it seems to have begun very quickly, consider taking your child or your whole family to see a licensed therapist. It's possible that the child needs to learn more effective coping skills, or that they have experienced something traumatic, and it's always a great idea to make sure, or to work with someone to give them those tools that they need. Okay, so let's talk now about having an effective routine for sleep. For your kids, and ideally for yourself as well, you want to set a routine and expectations around sleeping and maintain those expectations every night. These should include behaviors around bedtime and expectations for throughout the whole night. Set a routine that includes a consistent time that your child starts to settle down before their bedtime. Young children often don't know when it's getting close to bedtime or how much time their bodies need to prepare for sleep, or how to get their bodies ready for sleep. So set a time before bedtime to start the bedtime routine and include relaxing activities in the routine like a hot bath or a massage, and limit or turn off electronics as part of settling down. I'm gonna talk more about each of those things. So first, choose an appropriate bedtime. This will depend on the individual child, but bedtime should change with age. A 10-year-old will likely not be able to go to sleep at 7:30 like a 4-year-old might. So make sure that the bedtime is age appropriate. Generally, a child who's between 1 and 5 years old needs about 11 to 13 hours of sleep. A child between 5 and 12 needs about 10 to 12 hours of sleep. And teenagers, 12 to 18 years old, need somewhere around 9 hours. And adults need 7.5 to 8 hours for the most part. Always individual differences, no matter, whenever we're talking about human behaviors, there's always individual differences, but these are a general guideline. So take these, how much sleep a child needs, into consideration when you're planning their bedtime, and think about what time they would need to wake up and work backward from there. So you choose this bedtime for your child and you put the child to bed at that time every night. It's recommended that you stick to that same time even on weekends or holidays to avoid any disruptions in sleep and causing a disruption to the sleep cycles. Predictability is really great for kids. They do best when they know what to expect, so sticking to a consistent bedtime will help your child establish regular sleep and wake patterns and the behavioral patterns that go around sleeping. And I also want to mention, as far as bedtimes and how much sleep we need, in the other webinar that I referenced, the nutritional interventions to help sleep, Kelly, who was the presenter of that webinar, talks about some of the challenges that teenagers face, and the start times for school and how that affects especially teenagers. Excuse me, how that affects especially teenagers for their sleep cycle. So once you've got a bedtime, you know what time the child needs to go to bed, and then think about the steps that the child needs to do to prepare for bed. This will be, again, different based on age and what happens in your household. But what are the tasks that your child needs to do to get ready for bed? Things like they take a warm bath, they put on their pajamas, brush their teeth, lay out their clothes for the next day, or pack their backpack. What are these things that they need to do to get ready to go to bed or for the next day that you don't want to have to do in the morning? And for all kids, not just kids with autism or other special needs, a visual schedule of those steps can be a really big help. Also, as part of the routine, anticipate any needs that might come up once the child is in bed or in the middle of the night, and get all those things, prepare for all of those things before your child is in bed so that they don't have a reason to get out of bed. So things like needing some water during the night. Put a glass of water on their nightstand so they don't have to get up to get water. Make sure they go to the bathroom before bed so that they aren't waking up, or at least it's minimized how many times they have to wake up during the night to use the restroom. Have their transitional object right there. They are having to get up and go find their blanket, or they left their teddy bear in the car. I need to get out of bed now and go get it. Make sure that all of those things are there with them before the child actually, before you tuck the child into bed. Have some time for closeness. Read a story, talk about nice things that happened, any plans you have for tomorrow, especially those positive things. Having this is a great bonding time right before bed when everyone's relaxed, electronics are off. So have some time for closeness. Can help to build trust. It can help the child feel secure once they're alone and going to sleep. And finally, give hugs and kisses and say goodnight. And leave the room, wherever that is in your household. Tucking your child into bed at night is similar to having time for closeness. If you make the time to say goodnight and give hugs and kisses, it increases trust and security. And finally, let's go over some of these sleep hygiene habits that are important for everyone, no matter your age. First, remove as much light stimulation as possible from the child's bedroom or other sleep environment. Believe it or not, television, computers, iPads, video games, cell phones, any electronics with a screen are arousing forms of stimulation for the brain. No matter whether you're playing a really intense game of solitaire or downloading music, the light from your device is arousing. So it doesn't matter what you're doing on there, just having that light projecting from the device changes the brain patterns and melatonin production. So remove all of the electronics from your child's room, or at the very least, prohibit access to them during the night. If your child has a television in their bedroom and you don't want to take the television out of their room, turn it off and take the remote overnight. Maybe you require cell phones to be in a common area after a certain time. And as part of your winding down and preparing for bed, turn off all of the electronics as part of that routine. And it's recommended that all of the electronics are off, including the television, at least an hour before bedtime. Now, like I said, the light from screens, which is considered blue light, is especially harmful to sleep. Light of any kind suppresses melatonin, and exposure to light in the evening causes the sleep cycle to be delayed, so you would fall asleep later, and exposure in the early morning sets the clock to an earlier schedule. The shorter the wavelength of the light, you might remember from your science classes that all light is wavelength. The light is more, a shorter wavelength means more intense suppression of melatonin. And blue light is a very short wavelength, so an intense suppression of melatonin. Melatonin is the most important hormone in allowing us to fall asleep. If we suppress melatonin by using screens at night, it becomes harder and it takes longer to fall asleep. A study in 2014 by Chang and his associates looked at the effects of reading a printed book compared to reading the same book on an e-device. And what they found was that those reading on the e-device took longer to fall asleep, had less REM sleep, they were more alert before bedtime, so it took them longer to fall asleep or to go to bed. And they were sleepier the next day and took longer to wake up, even after they slept the same number of hours. So the person reading the paper book and the person reading the book on their device slept the same number of hours, but that person who read the book on the device was much sleepier the next day. So it's very important that we turn off all electronics before bedtime, allow for natural production of melatonin, no electronics overnight. Also a good idea to limit food and drink before bed. This can help to manage bedwetting and nighttime arousal to get a drink or to use the bathroom. So during and after dinner time, limit how much the child has to drink. They shouldn't be going to bed thirsty, but encourage him or her to drink more during the day and then drink smaller amounts as you get closer and closer to bedtime. Also limit consumption of drinks that contain caffeine, like obviously coffee, but iced tea, hot chocolate, soft drinks, some juices, because caffeine, we all know that caffeine helps us stay more alert and can help us stay awake, but caffeine also increases the rate of urine production. So if a child is getting a lot of caffeine, they will be waking more during the night to use the bathroom. If your son or daughter has a habit of waking up during the night to eat or drink, you can use a behavioral stimulus feeding procedure to break that habit. So to do this, you very gradually decrease the quantity of food or drink that's available during the night, and continue to do this until you eliminate the snack or the drink completely. So let's say, for example, your child gets up at midnight and has some string cheese, and last night they had the whole stick of string cheese. Maybe tonight they only get half of that stick, and tomorrow night they get even a smaller amount, and the next night a smaller amount, until they're not getting any. It may have to be more gradually than that, rather than reduction every night. It might have to be every 3 nights or so you decrease it a little bit more. Same with water. If they get up and have a glass of water at midnight, maybe tonight they only get 3/4 of a cup, and then gradually decrease it from there each night. If your child is used to going to the kitchen and getting his or her own snack, you can you can start this procedure by preparing the snack for them in advance, not allowing the child to be the one to prepare it. So you might have a plate out on the counter, and that's what they get to eat, what's on that plate, or something labeled in the refrigerator that is their nighttime snack. And then you are in control of what they're eating and how much, and you are still able to decrease it every night, even though you might not be getting up and giving them the snack during the night, or you might not even wake up when they get up and get their snack. If you prepare in advance and they know that this is the snack that they get, they don't get to go into the refrigerator and take whatever they want, you are still in control of that portion size and how much they get to eat, and can fade it out gradually. The sleep environment is also something to consider. The bedroom should be a calming place with limited stimulation. Think of the purpose of your child's bedroom as sleeping. That's why they have a bedroom, it's for sleep. With that in mind, you may have to decrease how much time your child spends playing in there. You want the bedroom to be a sleep stimulus, so when they go in there, the bedroom is a signal to the body and the brain that it's time to start winding down. This is where I go to sleep, and the body can start sending those signals, the sleep signals, to itself to get ready for bed. if your child is going in there all day to play or to watch movies, stuff like that, that's what the body will expect. The body doesn't know anything of this room. The body, or this room doesn't mean anything to the body. It's a room to play, it's a room to sleep, it's a room for watching television, it's a room for getting dressed. So as much as we can, we want to use the bedroom only for sleep, so that this is what the body knows us for. So with this in mind, consider what is in your child's bedroom that can help with sleep and what does not help that you can eliminate. This kind of thing might not be necessary for everyone, but if sleep is really a big problem for your child, this is something that really might be helpful. Look for things that are stimulating, or things that are associated with activities other than sleep. For example, one client had over 100 stuffed animals in her bedroom. Another had Lego sets all over. These things had to be removed, and once they were, the children were able to fall asleep more easily. Also, limit any activities that are going on in the rest of the house that might disturb the child. Dim any lights that might come into the room. Of course, keep sounds to a minimum. It's not a great time to be cleaning or making a lot of noise. Turn the televisions down, turn your electronics down if you're using a computer or something like that. Things like a sound machine, a white noise machine, blackout curtains. For some people, relaxing music can help to fall asleep, can help to make the environment more relaxing and conducive to sleep. Even lavender, like lavender essential oil. If you have a diffuser and can diffuse something like lavender oil, that is a calming scent and can help to calm down the nervous system. So these are things that are helpful to have as part of the environment. Now, it can help if homesickness and having trouble sleeping anywhere other than at home is really common for a lot of kids, even a lot of adults. So if your child will be spending the night somewhere other than home or other than their usual sleep environment, you can help your child prepare for this new environment beforehand by talking about what it's going to be like, reminding him or her that a trusted adult, a trusted person will be nearby, and what they can do if they get scared or can't fall asleep, who they should talk to, or some calming or relaxation strategies that you have practiced. And sending that transitional object, or the pillow that they use every night, sending something like that that is close to home, that reminds them of home, or that might make it feel more like they're sleeping in their own bed, can make the child more comfortable and feel more at home in this new location. So we have a few minutes at this point that we can answer some questions. So let me see, give me just a minute to find the questions. Excuse me. Okay, first question is, what do you recommend for adults with autism or Asperger's? And actually, it is very similar to what we have talked about in this webinar. Thank you. Yeah, very similar to what we have talked about. These strategies are pretty universal. They're not only for children. For whatever your age, you will get the best night of sleep if you have effective sleep hygiene, if you have a bedtime routine that you follow. So things like setting yourself a bedtime, and this is the time that I'm going to go to bed every night, and a wake-up time. This is the time that I'm going to wake up every morning. Sets your body up to have a consistent night of sleep. You're not getting a lot of sleep one night and then very little the next night. It is more consistent, and if the body has that consistent sleep cycle, it sleeps more effectively over time. So having a bedtime and a wake-up time is important for adults. Having a bedtime routine is important for adults. What do you need to do every night before bed? It might be similar to what we talked about for kids. Maybe you take a shower. A hot shower might be relaxing for you. Brush your teeth, wash your face, set out your clothes for the next morning, or make your kids' lunches before going to bed. Have that routine for yourself that you follow every night, and find a routine that's effective for you. The same routine is not going to work for everyone, so find what works best for you. Turn off your electronics at least an hour before bedtime. Some studies have said 30 minutes, but others have said an hour. An hour before bedtime is the best. So I would certainly go with that, the longer of those recommendations, and turn off all blue light at an hour before bedtime. That gives you time to go through your bedtime routine and gives your body time to wind down and produce that melatonin that it needs to go to sleep. What do you recommend for a child who cannot stay asleep or stays up due to anxiety? Okay, so this is something that I did not cover in this webinar, and this is also something that can be helpful and something that adults should consider also. For someone who has very high anxiety, especially just a high baseline level of anxiety, they're just always kind of anxious, not because of some trigger or there's not some event coming up that we're feeling anxious about, but for people who just have a high baseline level of anxiety, it's great to find some activities that are relaxing for you. So it might be doing some yoga, maybe progressive muscle relaxation, maybe it's reading, Tai Chi. There's lots of activities that can help the body, that can help to bring down that baseline level of anxiety. And if we have a really anxious day or a really stressful day and we're just kind of heightened for that reason, having some of those relaxing activities like that too can help to bring you down from that state. So for someone who just has this high baseline level of anxiety, every night before bed, do some of those relaxing activities. Do some yoga every night before bed. And with yoga comes the deep breathing, so do lots of the deep breathing while you're doing yoga. And this is something that you want to try to do every night, and that not only helps the body, the nervous system to wind down and get to that place where you can fall asleep, but over time, doing these sorts of activities frequently actually can help to bring that baseline level of anxiety down. This is especially true for exercise types of activities. Research shows that exercise is one of the only empirically proven ways to help anxiety and also depression. So I would highly recommend yoga or martial arts or something like that. But just doing things like, for some people, deep breathing by itself can be helpful. That is not something that works for me, but for some people that can be really helpful. Progressive muscle relaxation, where you squeeze and then relax, starting from your toes and working all the way up to your head. Squeeze and relax one muscle group at a time, taking a inhale and exhale as you squeeze and let go. That is great for the nervous system, great for grounding, helps to fall asleep, and has other benefits like helping us to recognize when our body feels tense outside of just trying to fall asleep. So for someone who has high anxiety and can't fall asleep, or wakes up in the night because of their anxiety, do lots of validation, like we've already talked about, and teach them some of those relaxation strategies to help to bring down the nervous system. What else do we have? Is it true that extra melatonin can cause nightmares? I have to be honest, I do not have an answer to that. I don't remember it being covered in the nutrition strategies to improve sleep, but she does talk a bit about melatonin, so that might be a resource that you could check for that information. But I unfortunately don't have any information about that. I can't say whether or not that is true. My apologies. What exactly is blue light? I'm not going to give a very good explanation of this, but I will explain it as best as I can. All light, if you think about the colors of the rainbow, that's the visible light spectrum, and each of those colors, if I remember correctly, as you go from blue to red, the wavelength gets longer. So blue and purple are the shortest wavelengths, and then red is the longest wavelength. So that's the visible light spectrum is what I'm referring to when I say wavelengths. And blue light refers to that section of that visible light spectrum where that type of light falls, and the electronic devices fall into that blue light part of the spectrum. If a child wakes up during the night and falls asleep after an hour or two of being awake, falls asleep after an hour or two of being awake, should I wake the child up in the morning at the same time to keep the routine, or should I let the child rest and change the routine? So in this case, if it's happening consistently, if the child is waking up after a few hours and then is awake for a few hours, I suggest keep the routine. Put the child to bed at bedtime, wake them up at the same time every morning, and over time, the sleep cycle will correct so that they're able to sleep through the night without that 1 to 2 hour disturbance in the middle of the night. If it happens, just once in a while, where for some reason the child woke up at this time, then that's maybe the child does need more rest that day. That's kind of your call if you think that they can miss school for part of the day, or that it's okay for them to sleep in a little bit that day. That is your decision. But if it's happening consistently, then that suggests that that is their sleep pattern, and the way to change that is to have the consistent going to bed time and going and waking up time, no naps in between, or if they have a consistent nap time that's working, then keep everything consistent so that that entire cycle is able to shift to adapt to that. If even if you're keeping that bedtime and wake up time consistent all the time and it's not improving, it might be a good idea to see the doctor and make sure that there's not some other reason that they're waking up in the middle of the night. Okay, someone commented there are other empirically supported behavioral strategies and medications for anxiety. Exercise is not the only evidence-based treatment for anxiety. Yes, that is true. My apologies. What I meant was that exercise is one of the most studied and has the most evidence to show that it's effective. There certainly are other techniques, other ways to manage anxiety that are empirically supported. Okay, someone asked about napping during the day. So if someone is used to having a nap during the day, for some, depending on how much sleep a child needs, so a young child typically does need to have naps. They, for young children, I don't remember the exact number, but like young toddlers need to have like 11 hours of sleep at night, and then but like 14 or 15 hours of sleep for a whole 24-hour period. Those might not be the correct numbers, but it's something like that, where they should get so much sleep during the night, but for a 24-hour period they actually need more than that. So some young kids often do need to have naps during the day. Now, as a child gets older, they no longer need to have naps during the day, because they should be able to get all of their sleep at nighttime, and they don't have that sleep need where they need more than that during the 24-hour period. If someone is used to taking a nap every day, that becomes someone other than a child, someone whose body doesn't need to work that way, is used to taking a nap during the day. That becomes part of the sleep cycle. So if you have time for a nap during the day and that's how you want to be sleeping, then that's okay. Having a long nap, like more than 30 minutes, or having a nap after about 3 o'clock in the afternoon can make it harder to fall asleep at night. So keep that in mind if you're taking if you're taking naps, or if your child is taking naps. Again, an older child, not a toddler. And if you're getting really tired and needing a nap during the day and you can't take a nap during the day, then you need to consider changing your sleep cycle at night so that you're getting more sleep at night, going to bed earlier, arranging to be able to sleep in a little bit later. things like that. Of course, there are life circumstances that at some points we can't get enough sleep, or for whatever reason we're very tired and might go through a period where naps are necessary. But generally, if you're needing to take naps, you may need to change your sleep cycle during the night so that you're getting more sleep at night. And we are out of time, unfortunately. These were great questions, and I apologize that I was not able to answer all of them. But if you would like a certificate of attendance for this webinar, look for a follow-up email in the next 24 hours. This will have a link to a short quiz that once you complete, it will allow you to download a certificate of attendance. To receive updates on the webinar schedule, please follow us on Facebook or Twitter, or you can sign up for email notifications. And for more information about the Johnson Center and our services, contact us by email or by phone. We'd love to hear from you. And I thank you so much for being here today and for your time and attention.